There's a political war brewing on the left side of Canadian politics right now between Justin Trudeau's federal Liberal government and the British Columbia NDP government under the leadership of David Eby. I predicted this a few videos ago that despite the fact that the Liberals have an awful brand, like nobody likes them, their approval ratings are horrible, Justin Trudeau's personal approval rating is horrible, they still don't want to be associated with David Eby. They think that an association with David Eby and his radical drug policies would make the federal Liberals even worse off. The funny thing is that they kind of already own a lot of the blame for the crazy drug policies that David Eby has introduced in British Columbia because they were the ones who gave the waivers for decriminalization, for safe supply, and all these other policies. And this is what has resulted in clips like this, where our mental health and addictions minister, Yara Sax from the Liberal government, is now trying to basically act all offended that the Conservatives are blaming the federal Liberals in part for the drug issues, because it's actually all the BC government's fault. They asked us, we were completely hands off, not realizing that that's kind of the problem. Take a look at this.
Mother, and as a member of this government, the tragedies that are happening across this country and the lives lost are completely devastating. It's shameful that the opposition continues to politicize this. In BC asked the federal government to work with them on a 3-year pilot program. They have come to us and asked for an amendment to that proposal. We are working through it with them because, Mr. Speaker, we have to get this right. We are here to save lives. We need to get it right with law enforcement. We need to get it right with our public health services, because our focus here is to save lives so that people don't die alone. They have no plan. And
so people don't die alone. Really, that I think that sums up the federal Liberal provincial NDP's approach to drug policy. We're not stopping people from dying. We just want them to have a few social workers around them while they die, because we're giving them free drugs and giving them safe injection sites and all this stuff, and not actually trying to force people off of drugs. What she's doing right here is pretending like it wasn't us. It was David Eby who manipulated us into starting this pilot program, and now we're having to help fix it for them. You guys should have seen this proposal on paper as the dumbest thing humanly possible, that we're going to decriminalize drugs in British Columbia. We're going to start offering government supplied safe drugs to people. That's insane. And the Liberals went along with it. And now they're trying to act like, oh, the Conservatives are politicizing this. Yeah, because you guys are killing people. Because you guys on the mission in life to basically just make it so that drugs are safer, you've actually gotten more people killed. At some point, this kind of does need to be politicized, because people need to know the left-wing approach to drugs is horrible. It gets people killed. The basic math that they're doing is that they've made drugs safer because somebody might need to OD 8 times before they die from an overdose, because of all the safety nets that they've put in place in British Columbia, and that somehow means that the streets of British Columbia are safer, despite the fact that they've actually made so many incentives for certain people to get on drugs, thinking that it's way safer because the government keeps literally marketing it as the government will give you safe supply drugs if you're addicted. Obviously, a lot of people started doing drugs. So yes, the numerator of how many times you need to do drugs before you actually OD and die has gone up. The thing is, the denominator of the amount of people on drugs at risk of ODing has significantly gone up too. So we've basically traded a rational approach to illicit drugs, which was arrest drug dealers, don't let people use drugs openly, and push people onto rehabilitation pathways. And we've replaced that with, let's make meth safe again. And I don't think that meth has ever been safe. That's just a little bit of a crazy opinion I have as a conservative individual, a right-wing conservative who thinks that maybe people shouldn't be injecting smack between their toes. But we have this situation in British Columbia right now that, despite everyone on the east side of Vancouver and really just the entirety of the province at this point can see drug addicts all over the streets, unable to even function anymore, people will still say to themselves, and these are hyper-progressives, the people who will still vote for David Eby in the provincial election despite all of his failures, they'll be like, well, at least we're not unsafe now. What? We are 100% unsafe. But anyways, with what the Liberals are doing here, this is why Trudeau has been so silent since David Eby requested the change to his decriminalization policy, because David Eby's pretending he's moderating by saying, don't use fentanyl in the parks, do it on the sidewalk. That's effectively what the change he wants to make. You can't use it on a children's playground, and you can't use it in like certain public parks anymore, despite the fact that he doesn't care if people camp in public parks. So the idea he's actually going to enforce this new policy is ridiculous. But Trudeau has not actually been acknowledging that David Eby has been asking for this amendment to the decriminalization waiver that they gave them, because Trudeau doesn't even want to acknowledge that he has any ownership over this problem. But like Yara said, she's really trying to split the baby here. She's trying to say that, well, the Conservatives don't care about saving lives and we're in favor of saving lives. Also, this was all David Eby's fault. It's his pilot program. We just gave him permission, which you still gave him permission. That's like if a province asked you to basically decriminalize murder and you did it, and you said, and then when people say, why did you do that? You're like, well, they wanted to do a 2-year, the purge pilot program and just let people kill whoever they wanted and see if it made society better. We're actually trying to save lives here, and you seem to be a bit of a bigot when it comes to murder and other sort of violence and drug use and whatnot. Whatever. This is your brain on left-wing politics. It does pickle the brain over time when you think that an intricate enough policy, a nuanced, wonkish enough policy will eventually mean that we have flying cars and there is no scarcity anymore in the economy and everyone's a trillionaire. No, simple policy works the best, because simple policy is hard to screw up. You always have left-wing pundits on television, the Andrew Coynes and Chantal Huberts of the world, act like you're being simplistic. But simplicity is great because people can't screw up simplicity for the most part. I know there's always going to be an outlier. But when you have these drug policies with all these different regulations and sort of, little sub points about, oh, you can use meth now, but not over here, and you can't be carrying this much on you, and you can't be using the public park, but you can, we have Narcan kits all over the streets in case you do OD in the park, because we really aren't even enforcing those rules. Eventually you're going to have a system that just doesn't work at all because it's contradictory. It's just a web of contradictions in policy that don't actually get at solving the problem. They just end up trying to make the problem better rather than trying to solve it. Anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. My normal plugs. I'm Wyatt Claypool, and I'm running for the Calgary Signal Hill Conservative Party nomination. You live on the west side of Calgary, check out my website in the description below, WyattClaypool.com, and buy a federal Conservative Party membership. And then we also have the legal fund in the description below. It's the Give, Send, Go link. If you want to donate there, you can help us sort of reduce the burden of cost we have from our lawsuits. I've paid over $29,000 just into this one lawsuit defending us from this guy suing us for defamation, who still hasn't even provided any evidence to how we defamed him in over 2 years. But he's a billionaire, so he can keep up this sort of legal nonsense for a long time, where we have had to basically put 90% of my income into just making sure that we can actually pay our bills here. So anything you contribute to that really helps us out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.